only person that I see that is missing, in terms of the committee right now is Rick, Letchworth. However, Mark Nash is maybe joining us, may not be, so, from city staff. Okay, the next thing we have, is the approval of the minutes. You have them in your packet if you have taken a look at them.
No.
I'll give the board minutes to read them. That I would entertain
I would make a motion to approve them.
Alright, I have a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Hambacher. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That'll carry. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move right along to the reports and updates from the city staff, starting with financials. So you wanna take it away?
Okay, so this is an update through September 30th of this fiscal year.
Different computers.
Okay, so year to date, we have billed just a little over 14 million as far as kilowatt hours that we've sold. That is down compared to the same time frame as last year. So the third column there shows comparison to where we were at last year. That's about 950,000 kilowatt hours less. And then on electric revenues, we have billed a little over 2 million, with 73,000 of that being the availability fee. Electric revenues that we have collected year to date is 1.8 million. Then on water consumption, we have billed around 33 million gallons. That's down compared to the same time frame as last year. Quite a bit, actually about 6.6 million gallons less. Water revenues billed is at 214,000. And then, part of 39,500 is the base rate that we charge, and then the water revenues collected year to date is 219,000.
Question there, because I had asked before about water leakage, and when I was talking about the fire hydrant that's on the corner that we discussed a number of times, that was leaking underground, and the faucet evidently, the seal is not the problem, it's either before or after that. What percentage, was my question last time, do you have any idea what percent? Because he said we have 70 hydrants that are leaking, and that one wasn't a priority because it wasn't leaking that much compared to others.
I don't have those answers, that would be Mark.
That's a heck of a lot of leakage. And that came from the water department, not from Mr. Nash. Okay.
I'll make a note, to get in touch with Mark about that. So you're wanting you were asking for the percentage
Yeah,
of,
a long time ago, we did that and it was about 40%. And
Yeah.
last time, I think when we talked about it, it was at 20-some percent.
So you're
But
talking
we
about
got
water
70.
loss.
These are water losses, that's water losses not billed for.
okay. I will get back to you on that, and since Mark is not here, I don't have the
Okay.
specific
That's-
numbers, he would be the one to carry that.
And moving on to sewer consumption, so we have billed out 29.8 million gallons. That is, if water is gonna be less, sewer is gonna be less. Sewer revenues collected or billed out is 281,000, 38,000 of that is the base rate. And then year to date, what we have collected is 283,000. Any questions on this?
I guess the only thing I'm looking at is, did we budget, I know the consumption sold, we typically have gone down because we've been seeing a trend going down. I'm seeing 28% of our budget is, revenues, sold, and it's 25%, so we're a little high there, on revenues
If I
gathered.
remember correctly, electric, we,
We did just electric.
a little bit, because we
Yeah.
had seen a decline. On water and
Is that
sewer,
just-
we kinda held them flat, so.
Yeah, and I'm just noticing, cause cause as of 9:30, we should be 25%,
Right.
so like, we're right on target for water and sewer. But that electric sales revenue seems ticked up, and I guess that's because we did we budget too high on or too low on the consumption, or,
Well,
cause we
not
did a 3%,
necessarily.
yeah, we did a 3% raise in the,
I mean, it could be that we budgeted off, I mean, cause
Yeah.
we had a budget budget is a best guess.
Yeah,
And it's only 3 months
It's-
in.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the winter months could be,
Yeah, it's gonna be
close
higher,
that gap
Right.
quite a bit, so.
And the other thing is, the last month,
mhm,
you know, here recently, it's not been as warm, and so that's gonna, all the temperatures are going to affect all of that as well, how much is used in it.
Sure. Okay.
Do you think there's a tendency for people with above ground pools, maybe this year with the higher price of water and sewer, that they're not gonna do that? Cause if they're not using the,
But we would have seen that increase back in like late spring, early summer, yeah. Not this budget year that we're looking at.
yeah, I was looking at the total for the 3 months.
Right, but that wouldn't have been this budget year, yeah. So, but the water and sewer are like right on cue.
Yeah, it's right on target. Pause for a second. Mark, we already had somebody, Mr. Hambacker was asking a question.
The question was about water loss in terms of water pump, water bill.
Mhm.
Did we get, what percentage are we at this point?
I haven't got it yet.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we can move on.
We're
Is there
still
any-
trying to figure out how much water we pump the night of the fire.
My concern had to do with the fact that when we were together, he had talked about the fact, I had talked about the fact that there were like 70 hydrants that were leaking. And, just hope we don't ever get back to the 40% point.
I-
All right, any other questions on, the usage and revenue slide? All right, we can move forward. Okay.
So this is the electric summary, the top being the revenues, the bottom section being the expenditures. The highlighted is the year-to-date through September. So total revenues so far at 2.1 million, with expenditures coming in at 1.4 million. This brings us the surplus of 674,000 year-to-date. And the next few slides are the details within each of these categories. There's a few, if you look at the details, there's just a few that are running a little high, but, workman's comp insurance, general maintenance insurance, general liability insurance. Those are all paid in July, so they're going to be high for the year. But overall, their expenditures are on target.
Is this the workman's comp here miscellaneous?
No, it's on up under personnel. You're under revenues.
Would you explain penalty fees?
The revenues, for when we turn, is that when we turn services back on that's been disconnected? Yes, the fees that we charge to be reconnected.
No, I'm just looking, I like that we have the percent of the budget, you know, so you can kinda see where we're at.
Right.
And for the most part, it looks like everything is pretty on target. The only one that was kinda high was like general supplies, and it's $46, so,
Right.
eh. Like,
Yeah, very much.
it's something, but it's, you know, whatever.
Right. And then I went ahead and put the reserve funds on here. There's
Awesome.
not been much,
Yeah.
on those, I think we bought some wire or something for $30,000.
Transformers.
Yeah. But not a,
You have line, right?
yeah,
Same.
so that's one of the reserve funds.
Right, both reserve and the return replacement fund.
Yes, it's above this one, so I have 502 and 503 now. Keep going up, so that's the 503 go up.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Maybe I-
didn't see it.
Okay.
And say, it's important to keep in mind that there are two
time to review some of the numbers, or you guys good to move on? I think we can move on to purchase power.
Okay, this is the graph I usually put together for you all. It shows through October, actually, because we just received a bill for October. October came in a little bit less than this time frame last year. So July, August, and October has been less, and September was more. So the yellow being this fiscal year, the gray being last fiscal year. So overall, it doesn't look too bad right now.
Move on to water.
Again, revenues are on the top section there. So far, we brought in 227,000. We have spent almost 180,000. Brings us a surplus of around 47,000. And again, the details, a few items as high, the workers' comp, of course, again, and then that general supplies again, but it was only $46. It was split amongst all utilities, that's why you're gonna see on all of them. Some office supplies is kind of running high. They bought a refrigerator for the break room at Sharon. So that was $700, so that was just kind of for office supplies. And then, vehicle maintenance is running a little high. Had a lot of issues with their vehicle. Special services is running a little high. They had to buy some chlorine for the wells.
Are you looking at revenues?
Yeah, and it would be.
Yeah, penalty fees would be late fees.
Yeah.
Late fees.
I have a-
fees, yeah.
I have a weird question here. In the revenues again, I saw there was one where it was, water sold at plant.
So that's when they, go to the faucet and buy.
Oh, okay, so at the,
Bulk water
The
sales.
bulk.
okay, bulk water sales, I didn't realize we sold it, okay.
Yeah,
Someone
well,
fills up a water truck or something.
I did not I had heard about that, but I did not realize that was actually happening. Okay.
At one time we had,
Yes.
other fire trucks filling water in
Yeah.
our facilities. Is that something?
Do what?
Other towns, not towns, but, areas around us were filling water from our
When the state,
fire hydrants.
when the state or one, we have a meter that we put on a water, fire hydrant, and they buy their water through that, and then they're billed
Oh.
by how much they use. A lot of your places that are hauling water right now, Shaw's, they have a meter of their own, or we have a meter set up on a fire hydrant, and then at the end of the year, they'll be billed for that.
They still use that water pipe over on Green. They still use that water filler pipe too over on Green.
yeah, that's what we're talking about, the bulk water sales.
What is the one at the industrial park? At the end of it, there's a hydrant there, it's got all kinds of attachments on it.
The helicopter, the business there that they do the spraying with the helicopter, that's where they fill their tanks up.
Yep, yeah, I think we can move on.
Not much activity. We've had a grant reimbursement
Sally, you had something on the reserve and like what we had, like building up to the reserves of like the 6-month reserves. You had some slides on that last, like, or couple of utility meetings back.
Month reserves?
Yeah, well, the total reserves that the 6-month reserve goal that we're trying to get to, I believe it was, right?
We had the annual.
Yeah, an annual goal.
Yeah, an annual goal. So none of that could be reflected off of this, like what we're building up into that.
I guess I'm still,
So,
even the annual goal, I guess I'm not really understanding.
so when we started this year, we
Right.
were looking at slides that were, cause we were trying to get to this, what the city code is, I think, is it
25%.
25%, sorry,
Of
not
operating.
6 months.
Right. Okay,
25%,
that's where I was like-
the 25%
Gotcha.
goal.
Right.
I think for the next meeting, can we get like an
Look at that.
update, yeah, look at that and like get an update on how we're doing on that, cause I know that was one of the goals that we were trying to get to in the past, like year or two, and I remember that we were getting fairly close fairly
Right.
quick.
If I remember, it's 25% of the most recent, is it audited year? Or is it
The
just
previous
most-
expenditures.
Yeah.
years.
So previous year's expenditures, okay. So they're gonna have to be audited.
Yeah, I just want, I would like to see, and I think it'd be good to have, like, now that we're a quarter of the way into the year,
Where we're at.
seeing where we're at on that, cause I know we got fairly close last year, now there's things that are gonna come out of that, no, I don't think so.
No, the repair and replacement fund,
Yeah,
and I have to be careful because I call them both reserve funds.
okay,
Okay, but there's two, there's a true reserve fund that's for in case of emergencies,
yeah,
and then there's the repair and replacement for equipment and facilities.
okay,
So two separate funds.
yeah. I would like to see that, I don't know if, the rest of the committee would see that, but personally, I would like to see that, the next meeting. Thank you. Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, this is
Purchase of
the
power,
Purchase
the-
of power slide that NQA shares with us and where we're
Yes.
at. So we've got final numbers for August. So basically, I show August to August.
Okay, so you're showing the last 12 months,
Yes.
August to August, okay. Alright, so this is the most recent August, this last column.
Scroll down just a little. So right now for July to August of this year, so last year to this year, we're at 7.2 cents per kilowatt.
Oh, the
Is what
average
we're-
for the year.
So that's the
Yeah, that's
average.
the average so far, what we're paying. So, like, in August, the August column, the very last, at 0.0537, that's August, that compares to August of the previous year.
Okay, what the change is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
The
okay,
change
so,
from prior years. the
yeah, so
very
last year for August, we paid,
5 cents less.
half a cent, like 0.5 cents, right? Okay, now would that be, yeah, it'd be 0.5 cents less, is what we paid last year. I know it's hard to,
Half a cent less.
yeah, half a cent less
Per kilowatt hour.
per kilowatt hour was billed to the city, so. What's that in terms of like percentage? Sorry, I'm just curious, like what the, what?
Nothing.
Um,
I'll let you do that calculation.
well, fine. 0.0537. Divide that by 0.07644. Seems high, I think. I think that's supposed to be 0.005,
Okay.
is what the issue is.
Well, I'm comparing our all-in cost for August.
Yeah.
Which is 0.076. Yeah, that number compared to the previous August. That would be the 0.72. The first cost.
But yeah, I would,
Okay, so yeah, it was supposed to be cause that would make it, so we're paying 6.5% more this August than we did last August in terms of all-in costs, so a little bit of a raise there. I'm just trying to, yeah, there was like one order of magnitude there. That's okay. Okay, that's the So that's what I wanted to convey, is we're like, in compared to last August to this August, we're paying 6.5% more. Okay,
Anything else on this?
no, I think anything the committee wants to see, or, I know it's small numbers, so it's hard to,
I mean, I can zero in on certain parts of it.
Yeah.
but,
I guess the only other thing I would mention to the committee is that our peak was set in,
Well, we're still under the 13.
yeah, we're still under the 13.9
Which was
until
last December.
last December, so come December, if we set a new peak, it could go down.
Now, you can see the
Or we
very
don't.
top row up there,
Yeah.
those are the peaks for each month. So you'll see so far in these last, we're at 12.7
Yeah,
compared to 13.9. So that's, but the caution is, the last couple of years, we peak in the winter.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what happens come December this year.
okay. Let's see.
Well, we didn't,
Hmm.
we didn't last year,
So,
did we? Does it look
it's
like
saying
our peak-
7.9, but the peak was,
7.5.
if you go down, the peak actual is down there in the local transmission, down further, same column, a little bit further.
Oh, that-
Yeah,
there.
right there, 13,943, that's where the peak was, so,
Right, last December.
for last December, so I don't know what was going on with the numbers above, I was a little confused by that as well, because I was looking at that. Because 7.5 is definitely not the peak there.
Right, no,
But 12.7 is the peak that we're currently set, we set that in August.
right, it's right.
And that was probably because of I know August was fairly hot.
Yeah, we had some.
We had about we had like 1 or 2 weeks of 90-degree weather. So, okay. That's it for that. Okay. Sally, you've got some of the information here.
Yes, so utility billing and payments, so a couple of different things, so the utility billing, we've been trying to get, everything in line and set up to be able to email utility bills. And believe me, I'm as frustrated as anybody that this has taken this long. We did get an update from Encode, and so the only thing I can guess is it's a scheduling factor with their staff. Because they sent us a schedule that said, they will be testing the system to be able to, on their end, to email the bills the week of October 23rd through 27th, is that right? The last full week of October, they will be testing, and then we should be cleared to start. We can start testing, but that's where we are, we're waiting
Yeah, for
for Encode to
October.
finish up their back end.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the billing. On the payment side, I know we talked last month, about going ahead and launching the online payments and the phone system through Acceleron. So we thought we might have that up last week. We actually set some of it up, we tested, we were actually able to take some credit card payments in the office through their new, point of sale system and their card swipes. We could take them if we had the card, we can't manually enter, we're still getting error codes on that. And so we're trying to work through that. They're doing the final recordings of the voice, the messaging for the automated phone system. So we're just working through those final kinks. Because if we can't manually enter, then other payments that come into the city, not just utilities, we have to be able to process those. So you think, we're talking, right, Parks and Rec, yeah, sports registrations, pavilion rentals, business licenses, cemetery plots, I mean, there's everything else the city does, we take those payments through the same system. So all of that's not up and functioning as it should, like I said, we're still getting error codes, and we're working with the company to alleviate those, so.
The two things cause I was trying to help test with this, did we figure out, did they mention anything about, cause when I went on there, you had to have your account number and then the meter.
The meter number, and yeah, we don't have that resolved yet, so.
Okay, that's not resolved
yeah.
yet?
Yeah, we had a list of things that we came up with, that were
Okay.
emailed to Acceleron saying, okay, we can't have this doesn't work, this isn't, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said.
Are they open to holding for those, or, cause I know know they were getting really, are they, you know, cause I know they were getting testy about launching.
Oh, no, they're not testy about this, I mean, it's all on
Okay.
them.
Okay,
It's
Good.
all on them.
that's what I was
So,
worried about, was
Yeah,
they were gonna
yeah,
blame
at this
us
point,
for it.
it's not on us at all,
Okay,
it's on them,
okay.
so.
When you say meter number, the person that's paying this way has to know the meter number?
Well, that's what it's asking for right now, that's not,
Yeah, when you go in to sign in and create an account, it would ask for your account
Yeah.
number from the city and
And
the
your
meter number,
and that's.
which is not gonna be
Right,
cool. That's
No.
not what we want. We should just
so
have,
we've gotta get that correct.
yeah,
So that's where we are on those, like I said, I was hoping we'd have it launched last week, but waiting on their side. So that's what I've got for billing and payments updates.
I have a question,
yeah, we can take a quick question. What's up?
about the contract with them. It's been over a year, right? A year, like last August.
Which contract are we talking?
The one you're mentioning,
The prepay
Yes.
system,
Yeah, the
right?
pay system.
and have we paid them for
No.
a full year?
We have not paid them anything yet.
Okay,
We don't pay them until it launches and it goes live.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
Alright, you want me to move on?
Yes.
Rate study, okay. So a couple of updates on rate studies. And this is something I mentioned a month, maybe 2 months ago. Sewer, for the sewer system. This is something that because we have an approved bond to pay for upgrades for the sewer plant, the state revolving fund that we have this bond through requires that we use a special ordinance and a calculation to determine what our rate should be. So we had to work with our engineer, Arthur Elgin, to do these calculations. They go into current debt load, they go into, technicalities within the plant itself, so total dissolved solids and suspended solids and all of that is part of those calculations. So we have those preliminary numbers, we'll be bringing those before you next month, so we can start discussing what we do with sewer rates. And it's all based on setting rates at a rate that we can make sure we pay back the bond. More details next month. Okay? On the electric, rate study, we had our initial kickoff conversation, phone call last week. Myself and Stacy and Jennifer sat in on that. I know we have some questions for our auditor, because we really need to use the most recent, financial numbers. They don't have to be completed through the audit, but they have to be basically audit ready for just the electric utility to start with this rate study. And they do that because otherwise, if we go back to the next most recent audited numbers, we're a year and a half out. And so it's old data. So we want the freshest, newest data. So if we can do that, we talked about if our auditor can get those numbers to us in December, we could kick off the rate study in January. Said it would take about 3 to 4 months from there, to let us look at rate structures and what those rates need to be for electric moving forward. And so that would, if that timeline works out, that would queue us up for next budget year to have those rates in place.
I have one question on this. So with these rate studies, you know, if we are significantly over or under, are we required by any kind of state statute to follow said rate structures, or are they just merely suggestions? It's kind of a,
Okay, so, well, because they're two different kinds of things, so the sewer rate,
yeah,
I mean, we really should be following that since we have the bond and stuff through the SRF. That's kind of here's what you need to do.
okay,
The electric, I don't know that there's a requirement, I don't know.
yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. Yeah, it was just a question because like, you know, they're gonna take a look at all the things, and they're gonna take a look at what we considered as well, you know, all the things that we
Right, the various
considered.
rate
Yeah,
structures
the
we
various
talked
rates,
about,
what we
right.
have and what's going on. I just, you know, if it comes in, it's significantly varying, you know, are there any requirements was
Well,
the
and
question
the
I
other
had.
piece, because I had several questions for, BHMG, please don't ask me what those stand for,
Okay.
that's the name
I
of
was
the
about to
company for
ask.
the electric rate study. I can get that for you for next month, but, I had several questions for them about, you know, are they just gonna look at rate calculations, are they gonna look at rate structure, what all, and all of that will be looked at.
Okay.
so they'll have proposals and recommendations for us. So as that moves forward, like I said, that won't really kick off till January, but as that moves forward, I did ask about, could they do, when they get to the point of having a recommendation, could they bring it both to you guys in a presentation, so that you can ask questions directly of them, as well as in a presentation to the Board of Aldermen. So those were some things that I was asking, cause I'm not gonna be able to explain what they put together in those rate studies.
But when it comes to the tower at the industrial park, that is a huge budget that's coming out for us.
The
A huge
rehab of the water
budget.
tower,
I-
yes, yes. Yeah, and it's been on our radar, I mean, it has, we have to, so the water tower rehab in the industrial park, we have to have, because of capacity in our entire system, we have to have the new water well online before we can rehab that tower, because we will have to drain that tower. So it won't be holding capacity for us during that time,
Oh, yes,
so.
so the new well has to be up and running, and that's got a holding tank as well.
Well, it does, we do have a tower proposed, but at minimum, the new well has to be up and functioning. So we have a new water well and a new tower in process.
And one comes before the other.
Okay.
That's all I have for rate studies right now. Can I go ahead?
Sure.
The MPUA annual conference update, I did include in you guys' packet. These are the slides, I think there's only 3 sets that were available, that they shared. I can quickly walk you through some of the details of it. But I can tell you that the gist of the conference, the majority of what was talked about, they talked a lot about the stability of the electric grid nationwide, and how that's changing, both as there are systematic shutdowns of more traditional generation, coal, things of that nature, and then bringing online more of the renewables, what that's doing kind of to the supply, and the issues with transmission. So a lot of the new green energy, the renewable resources, unfortunately are built in locations a lot of times where there's not already a pre-existing transmission system, so power lines to move that to the population centers just aren't there. And so as more of those come online, then there's more of the need for those transmission lines. And so, so there was a lot of discussion about those needs, about the costs that are in the billions of dollars. And they talked also about the permitting issues involved. There was some discussion, they had a senator and a state representative there who were talking about what they foresaw as some of the upcoming state legislative issues related to power transmission. And a lot of them revolved around land use and land ownership rights. Because as you put these big transmission lines in, you're gonna be taking, land, usually from large farms, especially in the northern part of the state, to place these. So there was a lot of talk about, legalities involved with co-locations, where you have one major transmission line coming through and trying to co-locate a second in the same or alongside of the existing one, so you're not taking additional space. So these will be things that will be in the upcoming state legislative session, discussed at great length, I'm sure. I don't know if they'll come to resolutions or not.
Did they mention anything about the electric car and what it's gonna do to our demand?
Well,
It's
so.
in there.
It's further in here, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just giving you like the highlights of the whole conference, the things that they were talking about. So they were talking about that. They were talking about, yes, the push to move towards what they call electrification. So that's moving towards electric vehicles, it's moving towards smart appliances. We're used to hearing about smart thermostats, but smart thermostats on a different scale. One of the slides, like I said, I'm not gonna go through slide by slide, because I don't wanna bore everyone to death, but, they were talking about how a lot of the larger utilities in larger cities are moving to the smart thermostats, except it's not just a smart programmable thermostat, it's actually linked to your utility provider. when there's a peak alert, your utility provider can control your thermostat settings.
Oh.
I don't know about that. I noticed one slide on there, one of the things you're talking about electric cars and stuff, and one of the things was, providing incentives or regulations on when you can charge cars. Because that becomes a big
Yeah.
thing, you know, cause like if everybody's charging all the electric cars at one time, completely taxes the grid to a point.
Now, please understand, I'm not saying I'm recommending we do all these things that were talked about,
No.
okay? I'm just- Cause that's not the path I wanna go down. But,
That's, I'm telling you.
but one of the other things that they talked a lot about are, and this is, yeah, I feel like this is it would be a struggle as well, at least for us, is the time of use rates. Right, and there were a lot of conversations about time of use rates. The Public Regulation Commission has already pretty much, forced some of the larger utility providers, the publicly regulated ones like Ameren and Evergy, to go to time of use rates. And the whole concept behind time of use rates is not so much that that your community's not using as much power. You may use the same amount of power, but it's when you use it. And so trying to take that load off the peak times. So, I will add to this, after attending the conference, MPUA offered a training on, specifically on time of use rates and on net metering, okay? For Encode, which is our billing system. So Jennifer and I attended that training, and basically Encode 9, which is the version we use, can't accommodate either of those. So through our software, we can set it up to do time of use rates, nor can we do net metering invoicing through that system. So we're gonna have to do some workarounds to accommodate that.
Did they talk about compliance to time of use rates?
Well, you just get charged
Any
for
data
it.
suggesting that people actually do it?
Well, they do because
Compliance.
they pay more.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
That's what a time of use rate is. If it's during the peak hottest hours of the day, when we expect a new electric peak to be hit, then the rates through that stretch of time are higher if you're
Oh.
using electricity through that. And then come evening, so again, we've just come out of summer, so at evening, when there's cooler temperatures, your rates drop. So it depends on what time of day you're using that power, how much you pay.
I've heard of that. I've heard of that in others, like the
Right.
deserts.
Right.
I've heard of that being used for both water and
Dollar
electric.
Yeah, and so you'll,
Like data
as, you know,
science.
like I said, I'm not gonna go through the slides, slide by slide, I'm just giving you guys kind of the highlights of what was discussed and trends that are happening across the nation. But that is something, I'm trying to see here, there is a slide that talks about it specifically. Where is it? So this is an
Oh, yeah,
example,
second shift.
just briefly. So they talk about what time of day, so, okay. Right, here's your hours of the day, your 24 hours across the bottom, okay? So they're talking about when are you, so residential electric vehicle charging, right? Between 1 and 5 in the morning. Cause they don't want you charging your vehicle during the peak hours of the day. Then you can have commercial electric charging stations. Your customer installed solar starts producing during that peak time of the day. Yeah, so that, yeah, your energy efficiency, you reduce your residential peaks, this is when they're talking about those smart thermostats that utility would control and not ratcheting it down. So there's a lot, they talk about battery energy storage, they did a lot of talk also, another term that you'll see later in, I don't remember which one this was, they talked about demand, where is it? Forgive me, I'm trying to find it now, where yeah, quick side note, so here's what they say that the time of base rates will do, they'll improve the load factors, so what time of day is being used the most, promote electrification, so pushing more people to electric vehicles and other electric systems, reduce peak demands, I see that, and lend itself to decarbonization, so that's what they promote as the,
I guess.
do what? talk about, especially with the smart meters, smart hot water heaters, all of that kind of stuff that it distributes out and then you can control and adjust, yeah, through the system, what gets used. So like I said, there's some interesting information, some interesting numbers in the slide. So anyway,
Interesting.
but the big gist was time of use rates, yeah, looking toward electrification.
Okay.
Those are the big, like I said, a lot of talk about transmission and the challenges there. Maybe it's in the last slide, that's what it was, where they talk about distributed resources, this one, distributed energy resources. So they're even talking about homeowners who do solar systems, they're talking about homeowners who maybe invest in batteries for storage, but all that being connected to the grid and you being able to cool as needed. I think it's a little more, how to phrase this, it's a little more control than what I personally want my utility to have over my life. I just,
That's a reserved way of saying it.
yes, agreed, that's a reserved way of saying it. Yeah,
So.
anyway, so like I said, you have those, if you guys have specific questions, I will do my best to answer about what's in the slides, but this is what was presented to us. And that way you can look over it.
Appreciate you going.
It was interesting, it was,
Yeah.
the other benefit, I was able to meet, folks from another community in Missouri who uses Encode 9, so that's a real benefit to have an actual person. We immediately exchanged contact info, and we have been texting each other back and forth ever since. So, how do you do this? What, you know, have you figured out how to make this work?
They had the same trouble we've had?
Yes,
Cool.
yes. Actually, they've had worse troubles, and I say that because they are on the cloud-based version of Encode 9. We have had conversations about the cloud-based version. We would not have the same issues they have. They are a more remote community than we are, and they do not have good internet connection. And so when you're cloud-based, if you don't have good internet connectivity, every time that goes down, you can't do anything with your system. So they're back to taking cash by hand and writing receipts. So we wouldn't have, I mean, we honestly have pretty good internet connectivity here in Salem. So anyway.
How to deal with Brightspeed?
Well, fortunately, the city's not with Brightspeed, so. So, okay, and then,
I have a question, second.
Sure, yeah, we're in a lull, so.
She was talking about, solar, and that's while I'm here, that I've been harping to the committee, to Mr. Nash and the city administrator for the last 4 months of not having net metering. And for the last 3 months, I've been billed in excess of $224, that should have been on net metering. And, you know, a lot of kilowatt hours I'm able to produce.
And you're still paying that much?
And I think I forwarded to the committee a copy of my bill from Crawford Electric when I was with Crawford Electric on their net metering program. And my question to the committee, I've thrown out all the information I can think of to tell everybody on the committee and city administration. And I'd like to know what you're going to do about net metering.
so I'll start, Mr. Rowie, so what I just shared, that the training for our Encode system, what we found out is our system cannot do the invoicing for the net metering and display it like Crawford County does. So we are researching, trying to figure out what we need to do to accommodate that piece, okay?
For all of the solar customers, or?
Yes,
Is that, so, and on the billing, the only thing I could say is, we had, like he said, he was billed in excess of 224, you said?
$224.40.
$224. Can we have somebody take a look at that?
we will absolutely be looking at that.
Okay.
And what about the meters for the people with solar panels? They were back ordered or something?
No, they weren't.
No?
We're just waiting for the company to come down and reprogram.
Oh, that's right, it's a reprogramming thing.
Okay.
That's been 4 months that he was gonna show up.
Is there any way you
Now
get
it's been
credit?
5
When
weeks.
can you get credited?
Hmm?
It's been 5 weeks, it's not been 4 months, it's been 5 weeks. Cause that's when I contacted him, was 5 weeks ago. You've been wanting it for 4 months, but I actually got a hold of the guy 5 weeks ago, and I'm waiting for him to be able to be down there.
Okay, but we're making progress. I'll keep checking in on that, make sure that we're getting progress on that. Okay, so I handed, before the meeting started, I compiled the work reports from some of the city employees, if you guys wanted to take a look at that. If you guys had any questions, I do have Mark here if you had any questions for them, regarding the work reports. I tried organizing them and combining. They had a lot of things that they did, a lot of multiples of. A lot of guys were down at like the cemetery and trying to keep that, weeded and mowed, because we've had a wet and very quick growing, I'm tired of mowing my lawn kind of year. Not to make light of it, it's just, that we have a lot of space. So you can see that there's a lot of guys that helped out with that, and I appreciate those guys, trying to get over there and do some of that work as well, and help the cemetery guys out. But if you have any questions on this, the information's there, and you're free to ask questions.
Does the cemetery have any volunteers?
I don't believe so.
Not on a regular basis.
Yeah. No, I know there's a couple of people in the community that do some older cemetery, more rural cemetery, but I don't think anything first in town here.
That might be something to think about,
Yeah, we could reach out to some,
because I know I would be willing to do something like that.
We have to be careful because of the liability dealing with the tombstones and stuff.
You have to be
Say,
careful about that.
In what
yeah.
way, would you be?
Well, you can damage them, I guess, if you hit them with a mower or something.
Yeah, if we're having people, volunteering for mowing and stuff.
But they
and
do a
get
lot of
hurt
weeding.
on city equipment.
Yeah, right.
The weeding probably wouldn't do a damage to them.
That would be, yeah, that would be fine, or, making sure that any kind of flags after, Memorial Day and
No,
Veterans Day.
we have had some volunteers, we have a cleanup day for the cemetery in May leading up to Memorial Day. And so we do a cleanup day, and we have had volunteers join, it's kind of almost an all hands on deck for city staff. But we have had some volunteers come on that day and assist, so.
Well, it's one of the prettiest ones I've seen, and I've been very impressed with it. It's historical, and, those trees in there are almost priceless. So, I'd be proud to work on it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
We might have the community involvement committee, or is that what we're naming it? We could have, some of that as
Gotcha,
well.
maybe.
Roll that into something.
Gotta build the community first.
Yeah, I gotta have a committee first, I understand that.
We'll keep that.
Yeah,
Get two people show up and I'd be in trouble, Bill.
yeah, I'll talk about committees and stuff like that in a minute. Okay. You guys have this, you guys can take a look at it, if you guys have questions and stuff, we can, I was going to go ahead and move on. Talking about the outside, I wanna first apologize to you guys, for the meeting that we had. When we went into closed session, I didn't realize, or I didn't communicate that it could only be about, the contracts that we were talking about with, how's it worded? It wasn't about the 25% increase thing, and I am sorry about that, and sorry I didn't bring donuts either, that was two mistakes on my part. Because I did say that I was going to bring them, and I did not. But, and I don't mean to make light of the situation, I do take responsibility for that, that was miscommunication on my part. We had to stay on topic, we weren't allowed to talk about that kind of stuff, that is an open meeting item. I did talk to some of the aldermen about, the alderman did mention some of this stuff, outside of city utilities when we were at the alderman meeting yesterday. Because we did talk about two properties that were asked for, yesterday, to get on water, I believe.
One was on
both.
water, one was water and sewer.
Yeah, one was water and one was water on sewer, and they made a mention that, I will say that they made a mention that they're ready to say that if the city wants to provide utilities, that people should be,
Well, we-
annexed in. I got that information from both of them, they're ready to say, huh?
You can't
That's the
force
thing, yeah, there's still some things to go on about that. But they're,
Right, so I do have in your packet, this is a rework of what you guys looked at before. But I'm not asking you guys to vote on it tonight. I'm asking you to take this, think about it, and we can revisit it next month. Because after last night's Alderman meeting, like Alderman Williams said, where we actually brought 2 residential requests for outside utilities to the board, you know, it shows some other examples of the situations that can happen. And so I think,
What were the examples from last night?
so we had 2 properties, there's one north of town, I say north, along 72, just north of where Highway J or Rolla Road intersects with 72.
That's the Perkins property, I think.
It was Perkins, yes, part of it has sold and there's a new home being built there.
Right.
And so they had requested, water and sewer. Okay. So, that's an interesting situation, it's a little bit unique, it doesn't have all the things that even this proposed policy talks about. We have the water and the sewer line that runs up to the hospital that run through that property, so we already have it there. They are contiguous to an annexed piece of property immediately to the south of them,
Okay.
but they're not surrounded, it's only on that one side.
But they chose not to join, and they were willing to pay the higher fee.
Correct.
Yeah.
What constituted that decision?
I don't know.
yeah, it's a personal
Is it-
I don't
decision.
know, it's a personal
Is
decision.
it the taxes for the county versus city?
That is what we hear a lot, that it's the taxes. Now, there would be a case to be made if the house went under construction, cause I don't know what that house will be when it's finished. But if you knew what the house was, say if it was a pre-existing home, you could take that home and you could calculate what the difference in property tax would be between the city or the county. And then you could do an average calculation for what utilities might be for that size home. And then you could compare and contrast. Now, that's really difficult.
I
for
have
the
a
homes.
feeling that with the size of the buildings that are going on out there, that's gonna make a considerable difference.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing with you, I'm just, but all I can do is present that to them and it's their choice. I mean,
And they're right on the edge, they're on the border of the city limits. I mean, that was an interesting discussion, and it was interesting that they made the decision not to come in. There has to be stories there that they wanna share with us.
Yeah,
and then the other property is actually 3/4 or better surrounded by city.
Yeah, and that one makes no sense whatsoever, why aren't they annexed in? I mean, we've got this little isolated place in almost in the middle of the city.
mhm.
They're more than that, that's a check.
I know,
Yeah,
that
there's a
just,
lot of
that
that.
needs to be taken care of with the
Well,
planning and zoning.
Well,
Or
but that's not,
somebody.
but planning and zoning's not gonna just recommend we go force
Yeah,
everyone
just force
in to
annexation.
annexation. So, but their request was for water only. So that's a little different, and the intent is to build a home on that property as well.
I know, I got contacted whenever this first came up, you know, months ago, when we were talking about doing this. I got contacted by somebody, and then their reasoning was they didn't wanna have to abide by, city code
City
structures.
regulations,
Yeah, city
right.
regulations and code structures for
Oh, on
buildings.
building?
Yeah, on
Oh.
buildings, on building regulations.
But there
So-
are Missouri statutes that outline this, and Missouri Revised Statutes Title 7, Chapter 91, it says initially on utilities, Section 91.20, cities empowered to sell light and power, and I don't know if there's another one dealing with water and sewer.
There is a separate one, 250.190 is for water and sewer. And that one authorizes cities, any such city, town, or village, or sewer district operating a sewerage system or a combined waterworks and sewerage system under this chapter shall have power to supply water services or sewerage services to both such services to premises situated outside its corporate boundaries, and for that purpose to extend and improve its sewerage system or its combined waterworks and sewerage system. Rates charged for sewerage services or water services to premises outside the corporate boundaries may exceed those charged for such services to premises within the corporate limits. So that's the water and sewer one.
The electric one goes back to 1939.
Right,
So
right.
When you look at the Perkins property and you think that the water line and sewer line was run out there along the highway to the hospital, they're attaching to that, right? So do they help pay for any of that expense that went?
No, because it's already there.
But if they have a frontage there could be a frontage charge or something.
Well, there's a
They may
tap
pay
fee,
for a
isn't
part of
there?
that
There are
line.
Right, there's a
fees.
tap fee that covers the cost of their actual connection.
Yeah,
But-
that's just the connection.
Right.
And those aren't real cheap a lot of times.
And part of the conversation with our attorney has been, because especially in that instance right there, the request is coming from a property owner who bought the property after the line was run. Okay? And so the concern with the policy, and I had proposed it, but as we kind of moved forward with before, was it's committing a potential future property owner to an obligation, and that's the concern. And we can't do that, because we don't know who the parties to the agreement are. If it sells to someone else in the future, we don't know who those parties are.
What determines the connection fee? There's gonna be more houses that are gonna go out there.
Well, the connection fees for
It's gotta be some
electric and
size.
stuff came before the board, before you guys, and then to the aldermen just a month, 2 months ago, something like that. Yeah, and so those are set.
Yeah, water and sewer.
Well, yeah, water, sewer, and electric, all three are set.
Is it based on square footage?
The connection fees, the
Yes.
hookup fees? No, it's based on the cost of materials and labor and,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
A 4-inch sewer line to hook up to is 1536. A 6-inch is 1648. On your water lines, depending on what size, a 3/4 inch is 2030, a 1-inch is 2730, a 2-inch is 5216, and a 2-inch line with compound meter is 5415.
Are those reflecting today's cost now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Is there not a county water provider here?
Nope,
There,
Pelham
well,
Water Supply District number one.
yeah, there's one, yeah, to the east of town. So like I said, I'm not asking you guys to vote on this, I'm asking you to think it over. You know, and I know at least one of the other aldermen is also doing, you know, kind of some surveying of other communities in the area to see what they get, or what they're doing. But yeah, but we need to have a policy in place, so that when these questions come up, because until then, every request that comes up will be going before the Board of Aldermen.
yeah, appreciate it.
When a property comes in like that, do you all have any say about roads?
Not if it's outside the
Purview.
city limits.
Well, let me tell you, the problem you run into with that is if you have more than one entity on a property, you get something called a tandem road, and nobody becomes responsible for it.
I agree.
And
I
that's
agree
where
with-
I've got a problem with that right now.
Yep.
And when I was on a previous planning commission years ago, it's a big problem, and
Right.
they get grandfathered in, and sometimes the utilities get involved with that.
Right.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, I will say, so here in Missouri, we don't have jurisdiction outside of our city boundaries to dictate what happens. I mean, we have a little bit if they're gonna do a subdivision and the developer's gonna do, and they're asking to connect, then we have a little bit more authority to say it has to be to these specs, to meet our codes. But as far as, yeah, the roads, streetlights, anything else like that that should be happening.
Does that go to regional?
There's nobody really has authority.
72,
Yeah.
turn off the railroad.
And it's interesting, cause I know what you're talking about, so, and I'll share just a quick example.
There's a entrance
So moving here from
there.
New Mexico had what's called an extraterritorial zone for cities. So based on population, every city would have either a 3 or a 5 mile jurisdiction outside of their city boundaries.
Yes.
Where any subdivision that happened within that zone, the city could say, no, you have to adhere to our subdivision standards. Roads, utilities,
Right.
all of that have to be up to these standards.
It's the same in Walmart bill in Northwest Arkansas where I came from.
Gotcha. They had that
So,
extraterritorial
yeah,
zone.
we have,
We don't have that in
extended
Missouri.
zone and all that stuff.
We don't have that in Missouri. And the whole purpose of extraterritorial zones, I know we're off topic here, but is so that in the future, if
Yeah, plans
that
out.
around the city annexes in, then it's already meeting codes that
Yes.
matching with the systems.
And you can run into a lot of trouble, believe me, it's, I was in the middle of all that growth, and it's crazy.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So,
I'm gonna go ahead and move on, to the committee.
Okay.
So this is something that I started,
hold on, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. The last
Never
pages in
mind.
your packet, I'm sorry, it'll just take a quick
that's
second.
fine.
The last pages in your packet are, from an attorney that works with MPUA, and it is specifically about electricity service outside of the city. Okay, and it talks about some of the legal issues with the most recent updates, when you start talking about those territories with co-ops and municipal boundaries. So, again, that's just for your information. Again, another piece to keep in mind as we move forward with developing policies. Okay, I'm done.
No, thanks, I didn't see the back end of this. So yeah, this is just something that came to my attention just recently, just looking at, boards and committees that we have. Are trying to find information about how many people and who's on it and whether or not you have to be, Salem residents on the board is hard to find. Years ago, when I was when Stan Podorsky was, the head of the park board and I was a part of that, we updated the park bylaws, which were pretty extensive. And what I would like to do, is I'm going to be I'm gonna be working with some city staff, and the attorney to make sure I'm standardized with all the different, regulations out there, but I'm gonna create a bylaws to put forth in front of you guys for review. So we can have a set number, so we can put some details on, and so when you're looking for, who's on the committee and what are the requirements of the committee, you don't have to go searching for RSMO statute, Title VII, something, and the city's ordinance, and try to compare and contrast, cause that's what we have right now. Looking at both, you have to search around to find all the answers. So I'm gonna, one of the personal projects I just wanted to update you on is I'm gonna be bringing forth an initial bylaws soon, for you guys to review and vote on. So you'll probably get it before, like in the packet of the next one, the next utility, committee, meeting, so.
Do you wanna mention about the, living in the city limits to serve on the committee? So that, I
Go,
don't have,
you go ahead.
forgive me, I do
Yeah.
not have the reference number with me this evening, but that is state statute.
Yeah.
That's not city code, that's state statute, that you must live inside the city boundaries to serve on a city committee. So,
We're currently working on legislation to pass for anybody that lives in the county that owns like property inside the city or a business can serve on one of these, which I don't know when they intend to.
Yeah, I think right now, at
Right
least
now,
in
it's just-
terms of our city code, there's one, I think, defunct committee that has any sort of, like, you can live outside of the city boundaries, and that was the tree board back in the day.
Oh, another one of those dead boards.
Yeah, so, that we found it, and I found just searching for codes and regulations, so. Yeah, it's not easy when you're looking at the city committees on, and I've had people asking about this as they start sending in applications, for, joining this committee in particular. Asking, do I need to live in the city limits, do I have to be on all 3 utilities, and those kind of things have come up, so. I'm gonna bring forth some bylaws in front of you guys, and I'm gonna try to get them to you early, that way you can review them before, and you guys can read through them. But that's all I have on that.
Yeah, the wording on that, 91.202 is specifically talking about providing power outside the limits. So, yeah, you have to kind of mesh all that together and
It's not easy.
come up with something.
Yeah, I
right.
found that it was not easy when I started researching it, so having bylaws, park, super easy. they have bylaws, and it's very easy to tell, because it enumerates all of that stuff, so. That's just an update there. At this time, I'm gonna move forward go
I
ahead.
have one comment.
You have one comment.
If we're moving to questions and comments.
Yeah.
So this is for our advisory board members. You guys should have received an email from me earlier this afternoon, asking for legislative, priorities. So state legislative priorities. The email went out to all committee and board members of the city. Actually, I take that back. You'll get it tomorrow morning. Sorry. For some reason, it wouldn't let me send it, and so I had to schedule it. That was incorrect. So you'll get it tomorrow morning. Sorry about that, Catherine. I know you're like, what? I don't have this.
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
So I just need your input back by Wednesday of next week. So any ideas you have about, legislative issues, things that would make life better for citizens here in the city, that type of thing. That's all I want.
I'm gonna open it up to the board for any questions and comments first, and then we'll get to the public. But does the board have any questions or comments or concerns that you would like to bring forth? Before moving
Are
on.
we, coming up with any replacements for Nathan?
Right now I've had 4 applicants. Those have been, I've sent, I'm waiting for one more. I sent him the application on Friday, so we have 3 people that have turned in. I'm waiting for this last one, and then I will send those on. The mayor will make what is it, a recommendation to the board, and the board will vote from there.
One of very seldom authorities that I have.
Yeah,
Well,
well, we stole a lot of them.
yeah, I mean, I should be claimed, but.
But, so that's, so I have had a lot of people, ask.
Okay.
So we will have that, hopefully in a meeting or 2, we'll have a full board once again. Cause we'll have to, maybe next one if it all goes right.
Yeah, I got some more members for other committees.
Okay,
Our large meter rate discussion has ended many times, and it's been replaced with something that you brought up, which was meter rates based on consumption. We need some data so that we can move forward on this. I mean, there's a revenue stream that we're not collecting. I know you're busy. You're probably overwhelmed.
Thing is, when we do bring that back up, we need to be looking at the entire structure. And so, I thought I mentioned it when we kinda left it last time, that I'd like us to propose that as an option when we do the water rate study.
Right,
But at this point, we won't be doing the water rate study this budget year. So that's where we're at. And I'm not just trying to kick the can down the road, Mr. Hammaker, I promise. I just, but with the sewer rate piece, and then kicking off the electric rate piece, there's only so much we can really manage to push forward at a time. So,
I don't know, like.
it's not forgotten about.
Okay.
Yeah, cause I mentioned it to Sally as well, and she was talking about the water rate stuff, so it'd be, we could change the rates, but if it comes down and they have the rate study and they tell us to change the rates again to something separate,
Right.
would we wanna, do that now and then have it change a year down the road? It's an option. You can still propose it, you can still recommend it as or make a motion for it if you'd like. But, as far as the data, what data were you looking for?
well, the data had to do with consumption, the number of people at the consumption level. I mean, my proposal was a very easy one, 6-inch meter, you pay $125, it's a
But I had
down.
sent out that data to all of you
Yeah, I
in
think
a
we had
spreadsheet,
that.
yes. 2-3 months ago?
I thought that data wasn't a complete, I
No,
thought
that
you
was
said,
that was the complete for
Oh, okay.
water usage,
Yeah.
that
Alright.
was, yes.
So we can take a look at that, and if you wanna propose something, you can always propose something to the
I
committee
can
for
resend
recommendation.
it.
no, I will have it.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was, not a complete set.
Previously, but no, here just a month or 2 ago, whenever it was that we most recently discussed it, that was the complete set of data.
Okay,
Okay,
alright.
cool. Okay, does the committee have any more questions, concerns? Okay, I can open it up to the public. Yes,
We've all seen the report about the water in the school system.
Yes.
What are you guys doing about it? What's the next step?
So, so Healthy Dent County has reached out to us, they have recommended.
Dent County Health Center.
Dent County Health Center, not Healthy Dent County, two totally different things, holy crap. Sorry, they're very close names, okay? So Dent County Health Center has contacted the city.
Right, we've had conversations.
Yeah, we've had conversations. I'm not opposed to their recommendations, which were to test the nearest water facilities.
We've already started things in motion.
Okay, so that's already in
The nearest
motion to
water
test.
sources to the schools.
Yeah, so they are going to be testing the water sources nearest to the schools, to determine whether, as far as what the article said, what the report said, they figure that it is likely coming from the pipes to the school. So those are what
The
they,
pipes to the school?
or the
Pipes in the
pipes
school.
in the school, so the
Right.
pipe, yeah.
The big difference there,
Yeah.
yeah.
The pipes in the school, is what they are believing the source is of that. They believe it is probably old solder to the pipes, and those kind of things. I've reached out to Zach Moser personally and talked to him.
Do they anticipate having to replace them?
That is gonna be on the school. I don't know, as far as like what happens inside the school, or, if it's determined to be on the city side, if we do take a test and it happens to be on the city
Right,
side,
then
we are
we'll
gonna get
track
to the,
down.
yeah, we will track down where it's coming from and how that's gonna happen.
But at
If-
this point, we just don't know.
Yeah,
We'll have
right
to
now,
get all the way
they are
around.
gonna be testing and we are gonna be testing our sources.
And
So they're
when-
testing inside inside their faucets, cause it was like 60% of their faucets, I believe, or
See,
something.
when the situation started,
Yeah.
nobody from Salem or eighty contacted the city at all when
Yeah.
this was going on. I got a call from, Representative Copeland earlier this morning, and I sent him all the details from what the city's received, Water Watch and everything from DNR, and he had reached out to the school, and, they said that they'd be running the water prior before the kids would be showing up for school to make sure that the system's kind of flushed until they can figure out, actually isolate where the problem's actually coming from. But we met with Zach Moser earlier, or we took a phone call with him today, and, he will be providing like testing kits for our department to do testing on the main lines around the schools to see if we can see if it's actually, make sure it's definitely not coming from the water supply.
What year was the school built?
Which school?
Yeah, which school does that?
Several different schools.
The one I saw in the paper,
Well, there's-
picture,
So that's the high school,
that's the high school.
Yeah.
the high school and middle school.
70s.
So, oh, I thought it was older than that.
No, it was definitely 70s because I was.
School?
High school.
High school was
57 or 58, okay, that's way
Seven
back.
58? I thought it was,
So you're high
maybe
school.
I thought I was looking at something. Maybe that's what I'm looking at because I'm talking to like.
Right, now William Lynch is
Yeah.
far older, I
Oh,
was.
yeah.
1750.
1750.
Well, Mark, you really needed that one.
Those will be clay lines, no. And then the upper elementary is
It's gotta be the
90s,
9.
96.
And I don't remember when they changed the law for the solder that contained lead.
Right.
Was it late 80s, early 90s, somewhere in there?
I have no idea.
I was thinking late 80s, but I don't quote me on that, I don't.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Quarter.
Huh?
Quarter.
Yeah, thanks.
So the school's hiring a lead abatement company to come in, Nathan Wills is the coordinator of that, I'm assuming that you guys know that. Oh, well, you do now.
No, they don't communicate.
So the city, so the school's doesn't communicate with city at all?
Only if it's
What is
something
with
they,
that?
only if they need something. I would assume.
That's
But it's something that's
Yeah,
important. I
separate
thought.
taxes.
They can get a
and separate-
grant if they find
a
out.
whole
that
9
they
yards.
something from the
Separate
school.
board,
That's
separate
why I remember.
taxes.
Concerned about low
Yeah.
scores.
Nothing, yeah.
And how did this get started? Who did the first test and why? And
That
Yeah,
there was
I'll-
letters
I'll-
being sent
I'll-
home with the children, I think it was, prior dated.
did somebody do a blood test and find out a high
Yeah,
level?
we truly don't have
Yeah.
any more information than,
Yeah,
Exactly
we
what's
got
going on.
exactly what was sent out by, hell, I saw it on
And you
KY
didn't get a
first.
parts per million or billion number or anything yet?
Apparently they took it from, just recently, from 15 parts per billion to 5. Cause in the past years, it's been 15 parts per billion, this year it's
But is
been,
that specific for schools?
I think so. They say no amount of lead is safe, you know, they know it's safe.
Are all the schools affected?
I
Probably
believe it's
testimony,
all,
but
I don't know.
I don't think legal lynch is.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure the upper.
I think it would be good to test them all.
Yeah, my daughter
That's
goes
what
to
the high school
schools.
program.
Yeah,
So,
so,
so if it's just a high school and middle school, that'd probably be it too.
I taught school for 21 years, they're dumb enough, we need to find out what's happening.
yeah, so, like, the city's taking steps to check around, those water systems to make sure it's not coming from a public water source.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are there any
And then
dates
they'll-
and contracts you can look at to find out when the lines were laid by the city? Contracts and so
Well,
forth.
I mean, we'd have to look back through
Yeah.
records.
That might give you an indication
Of what?
of, if you know when it was put in, you know what materials were
Right,
put in.
right.
So then,
Right.
you go from there.
Lisa, you had something,
Does anybody else have a question? Cause I've got a packet for you committee members and I'd like to walk through it and other people should go if they want to. I'll go through it as fast as I can, but it's pretty specific, so.
I can allot some time, I don't wanna
That's
keep
fine.
everybody here for a long time.
No, you guys can go
Are
through
you
it
guys
at your
open
leisure.
to seeing the packet? Okay, yeah, if the committee's open to it, that's fine.
Great.
Matter of fact, she told me, she said, you told me, thank you very much. She was covering
Okay, what I'll do is just walk through it real quick. First page, when you flip it over, best teachers are those who show you where to look but don't tell you what to think. I'm not telling you what to think, I'm not your teacher, but I'm just gonna run through this, you guys draw your own conclusions. There's a lot of misinformation and misconceptions around me and my household and the water and the city. So real quick, first letter I got the other day, I'm gonna back into this, okay, from the city administrator, saying that if I didn't allow for, and this is all to do with water, this is utility, and this affects our whole city, okay? So if I didn't allow the city to come in and do an inspection for a backflow prevention device, that my water could potentially be shut off in 5 days. Okay, this was sent certified return receipt Friday. I took possession of the letter Friday. And nobody answered the phones. None of the numbers that are listed, nobody answered them at the city offices. And then they know they're closed, and then Monday was a holiday. Okay, so the very soonest I could even talk to somebody or get something to them would have been Tuesday. So, you will see that they spent $8 to send me this. There's a copy of it. The next part, there's first the letter. You can read that at your leisure. About that it would shut off my water if I didn't cooperate. They spent $8 to get me this certified letter, okay. I responded lickety split, because the post office is only open for 2 hours in Salem. Okay, and you can read my letter at your leisure too. Behind my letter, first page is my receipt for $32. That was to get it in their hands, certified return receipt Tuesday morning. Okay, so that's what it's cost me so far to respond and tell them this is a moot point because you guys came and put a meter in my front yard 1 year ago today. Mr. Nash came that morning. He and I have talked about this meter too. We'll talk about that more in a minute. Okay, so when you go to the next letter in the packet, after mine back to the city administrator, you'll see this is from Tammy Kohler. The reason this is in here, I was requesting body cam footage that involved me being removed from a utility meeting. You guys were here. Okay, the thing is, if you look at what the city wants, when they give themselves 7 business days, if you go down through the body of the letter, you can read it yourself. Whenever they need extra time, it's business days. But when I'm supposed to comply, 5 days. Okay, you follow me there? Why do they get business days and I only get total days? That's not right. okay?
Who's taking body cam? What are you talking about?
It's just an example. Go to the letter that's dated October 2nd, 2023.
I got it.
Okay, I had requested through a sunshine law request, body cam footage, nothing to do with the dog that got shot, let's just be clear. Nothing to do with that, okay? Had to do with me personally, okay? Being removed from a meeting, you were here, okay? What I'm saying, the reason I put this letter in here is because Ms. Kohler said they needed
Yeah.
more time to get records.
I don't remember you ever being removed from a meeting.
Okay, well,
I
there's
missed
somebody.
one meeting.
That might be the one you missed then, John. I don't remember, honestly.
I've never seen you removed from a meeting.
I was told it was time to leave by the chief of police, okay? The reason it's in there though is to set the time, okay, that the city gets business days, you get days total to comply. That is not right. Do it the same for both. Next thing, Quality Plumbing Company on one side, to save paper on the other, I paid for 2 plumbers to come in and inspect at my house, okay? So far I'm into this $200, okay? Because you don't need to come into my house and inspect an old ancient meter that's in the basement when you just put one in a year ago. But we weren't sure if there was a backflow prevention device. And then I've lived there for 8 years and all of a sudden they wanna have this, inspection. Show me your logs where you've been doing these inspections in people's homes. I said in my letter, this is borderline on harassment and signaling someone out because I've been very vocal. And yes, I have, absolutely. And you want transparency? I'll be transparent. There's a lot of personal information in this packet. You want more information, I'll sit and talk with you. I'll talk with any of you. Mark Nash, he and I had a very good conversation last night. I'll talk to the mayor, I'll talk to Ms. Burbridge, I'll talk to any of you. I have nothing to hide. But I will not be forced and strong-armed and told my water was gonna be turned off today if I didn't comply with something that isn't necessary. They should have known there was a backflow prevention device at the street. Okay, they didn't need to come into my house. Okay, next letter was when Steve, my partner, had contacted the mayor. It's dated, you have to drop down a little ways because he forwarded it to me, dated 6/29/23. When Donnie Moore, superintendent of water and wastewater, showed up knocking at my door, I was not there. I own that house. I'm the homeowner. And Steve had just had major surgery. He was not feeling well. He didn't let him in because he said he had to come in and inspect for this backflow prevention device. Okay, so that's the chronology of what happened. Mr. Hambacker's heard rumors that I wouldn't let him read my meter. No. I have an agreement with Mr. Nash. And we've had it for a long time. I read my meter and I sign it every month and I turn it in, every month, okay? So I've never said they couldn't read my meter, I do it. Okay, so then, the next thing that happened after Steve contacted the mayor, we had some correspondence with him. I get this letter that tells me, again, this was previously, that they were going to need to see this backflow prevention meter. If I didn't comply, they would shut off my water. Okay, didn't happen, we worked things out because Steve did go and meet with the mayor. But the very night that I was here talking to this committee, which was July 12th, okay, I was upset because I found out the meter they put in 1 year ago today had been spray painted. You guys have this in your packet. Donnie Moore said that night, on July 12th, he spray painted it. If you go to the next page, it's the notes, or the minutes from this meeting. Okay, if you keep on going, very last paragraph says that Lisa French asked for the ordinance number regarding the meter, and that my meter had been defaced with spray paint. That is defaced. It was covered, the contractor I hired wiped it off. There's the rag if you wanna picture that too. It was still wet. Okay, but it had been, Donnie said I spray painted it the day we put it in. The whole face of it. Lifted up the metal cover, let you guys see what I'm talking about, and spray painted it. That's defacing of city property.
That's a meter that can send
No.
information to the
No,
city?
there's a whole story behind that, I'm not gonna go into it, it's just very complicated, if you wanna sit with me, Mr. Hambacker, or with me and Mr. Nash, we'll explain it. But no, it's an older meter, it would have to be red, but I read the one inside my house. There's two meters still.
Let me go back just a minute, I have to ask a couple questions.
Go ahead.
Well, why in the world why are any houses in this community have meters inside the home where your home has to be invaded for the city to read a meter? How many houses do we have in our city
There's
that
a
even
still
have
few.
that possibility?
Do you know, Mark, how many of us are left?
There's around 20.
I mean, that's just where they put it, and I
20
don't know
left?
why.
There was
So
no
every
other
time the
than-
city wanted to get information from the homeowner, they had to knock on the door and go in and read, or they were given access to their
With the-
meter?
There was a little, reader that was installed on those meters. I don't know whether her house.
Yeah, we
had one.
have
There's
it.
a little box.
Yeah, it's on
that's
the outside
outside of the house, and that's where you would read the meter.
Wasn't it because of freeze prevention in the old days, they kinda had thought that they should put them in the basement?
I mean, it just seems absolutely ridiculous
That's
to
the only
me.
reason I can think.
Well, then those
A lot of
meters
the
quit
older houses,
working,
a lot of the older houses with basements, that's where they put them.
Really?
In the Northeast, they did that too with all the meters, they put them in the basement.
So that means that you have to knock on the door in order to go inside to get a meter reading
And
for
here
20 homes.
they've let us, like Wayne Sapop, he's read his, he did for years and years and years, cause we live in those old vent houses right in the road there.
Yeah.
So I read mine.
So there's a
And it's
number of
like-
them along that road?
I don't, his is replaced, I don't know what the difference was, he has a new electronic, I think Harold has one too, we're the
They,
three
they
people
come,
that
they
use
come
it.
and read mine outside, I see them
Okay,
in the front yard.
I don't know
Read it.
what the difference was exactly, but mine has not changed yet.
I never seen it.
Even in the seventies, the electric cooperatives in Arkansas would have you read the meter and send it in. They never even read meters.
Yeah.
back in the
That's why we're
days.
reading.
Okay, so you guys do not have this because it's a disaster. If you wanna see it, you can see it's my notes from that night. Donnie was sitting right across from me, he was very agitated with me, very. In fact, somebody will give me a signed deposition that they thought he was gonna come across the table at me. Okay, so I wasn't causing violence or anything. If you go to the codes, I don't think I included this for you, you can go to the E-codes. It is very clear what absolutely has to have backflow prevention devices. Mortuaries, hospitals, metal processing plants, you have to. Also, any properties that have a sprinkler system or irrigation system, because it can suck in things into your water system, fertilizer, stuff from the yard, and contaminate it. There is nothing like that at my house. The plumber's reports both say that, okay? And the city knew it, they've worked at my house quite a bit. There's nothing there. And the plumber said there's no way anything can be sucked back out of your house, that is absolutely ridiculous. And the second guy who came he used to work for Anheuser-Busch doing backflow devices. Very knowledgeable, and he said, here's one on that meter, out front. Then why did the city send me a letter saying, let us in, or we'll turn off your water? Mr. Nash confirmed to me last night that Donnie Moore confirmed to him, there's a backflow device on the meter in front of my house. Why was I ever sent that threatening letter?
I need to ask another question. I'm getting a little confused here. When we were in the process of replacing all the meters, and you say there were 20 homes that had meters
No,
inside.
there was more than that to begin with.
So,
We're down to 20.
oh, so there's still 20 homes that have meters
there's roughly
inside and outside?
No, we're talking about a meter inside the house in the basement.
Yeah, I know, but
Okay, that's what I'm saying. We've got roughly, in the basements right now, we've got roughly 20 meters that still got to be changed.
oh, that still
the
have to be
contractor-
changed.
the
So the
contractor
only
wouldn't do
readings you
those.
get,
The contracting company that came in and did it for you guys, they wouldn't do ours that were inside.
No, they wouldn't.
So that was a problem. Yeah, they contracted that out to install the new meters.
is that something that is a personal thing for each of the 20 homes? In that they don't wish you to have don't wish to have the meter outside and the one inside would be removed, right? If I'm one of the houses that had a meter inside, I mean, I don't want you invading my home, so therefore I'm gonna say, I want the meter outside. And I'll give you permission to come in, yank out the old meter and put in a new. It seems like that's my simplest solution. Why don't you do that? Why didn't you do that?
I'm not gonna go into all that tonight because it'd get very, John, I'll sit with you and explain it if you want, and if Mark wants to be there, that's perfectly fine, we can explain what happened. If you keep on going, my partner sat with the mayor on July 19th. If you go to the letter in here and email, and they verbally agreed what the city would do in my situation. It was grandfathered in, because normally your lateral line is your responsibility. You know, from the meter to the house is yours.
Right.
Mine is different because it was inside and my lateral's crumbling. And we had a leak out front right now, which Mark and I talked about, which is the main going under 19.
Well, it's a
because-
service line that comes
Yeah,
through the house.
but they had to put saddles on it a year ago today, because it's crumbling, and we've known this, the infrastructure it's going, and this is gonna happen, okay? So this was agreed to verbally, we never heard anything else. We never heard anything else, this was July 19th. Steve sat with the mayor, face to face, okay? Don't know what happened. Okay, so if you go to the next stuff, the Missouri State Public Health Laboratory reports. I don't know why you guys have not gotten these. Kyle didn't get them, he should have, because he's the chair of the committee. 4 water tests were taken, samples, okay? And the state lab tested them for metals. Thank God they didn't show lead, I will tell you that right now. They're dated 7/19. First one is from my home. Aluminum content is over 100 times what the reporting limit should be. A newspaper article recently said, no big deal. It is a big deal. I have somebody at the state level, appointed by the governor, who's saying, not okay, Lisa, not okay at all. Another practitioner who's very ethical, and they're saying, no, this is not okay. So the first report, they're kind of weird, you look at them, I redacted the information from a couple of them because I didn't have permission from the homeowners. I think Kyle has that information, I did send it to him. But I'm not gonna invade somebody's privacy, okay, so I did redact that. The one I did not redact that you will see is in color for you guys is from the city's fill station that we were just talking about. It's at 301 North Grand Street, and it's the one that's got a color copy for you guys to make it clear. Okay, that raised a red flag with somebody at the state level with health ethics, because they said that is the only one that showed spot on out of the 4. The other 3 are taken from people's personal homes. One of the homes has all new plumbing. And they said, that's a red flag, how in the heck could that thing be completely clear, spot on, but nobody else was, okay? So, can I finish one thought real quick? So I wrote to Kyle, and I said, and I haven't heard back from Kyle, and I have my reasons that I believe, and I'm not blaming you, Kyle, why you were not answering me, I believe you're told not to. My partner came back in August 1st and said to the mayor, he's got stage 4 kidney disease, he is very ill. Okay, so he was scheduling surgeries and stuff, and so he contacted the mayor and said, when can we get back together on this stuff we agreed to? We have heard nothing. So then I wrote to Kyle, because I told Kyle, I will get you these reports on the water, you need to know this stuff, because you're the chair of utilities, you guys need to know this. And I asked Kyle, I think Kyle told me his wife works for Doe Run, she works with water samples. I said, I would like to know her opinion of what is seen here. I've already got it from several practitioners. Like I said, one of them's appointed by the governor. I'm not releasing her name yet, I don't have permission. I'll get it if I need it. This is not okay. And it's not okay that we, and I told Mark this, to be totally transparent, I told him last night, this is not against Mark. But when I asked about why did we buy wiring for a multi-million-dollar franchise, McDonald's, because we're being neighborly. Neighborly. Oh, well, you're not very neighborly to a homeowner,
No, I
taxpayer,
thought that,
and constituent.
I thought that was being paid for
It
by
will be
McDonald's.
reimbursed, but I said, why are we doing this even? Why are we doing this? Are we in the supply? Follow my train of thought here, John. It's more about, we're being neighborly. Okay, why don't you be neighborly to your constituents, your voters, your residents, your taxpayers, and not say, you don't let us in to inspect something that already exists. I've been fighting this for 5 years. My water's a mess. You think it's a mountain out of a molehill? Come on over, John, and take a look what it's like.
No, I guess, you know, I'm hearing everything you said, and I remember Catherine and I sitting in your home for nearly 3 hours when we were discussing
Mm-hmm.
all of this. And, I mean, if it was my home and I had a meter, and I bought an older home, but it's not evidently as old as the dead house is there.
Yeah.
And it was a matter of going to the new meter. I would have just gone to the new meter, had them change that whole line out
They won't do
and,
it.
and replace the
John,
old
that's the
meter.
whole crux of it. I offered to pay half of it. I sat with Sally Burbridge, Catherine Dent was there. I said, hey, I want that line replaced, but I want it done by a professional plumber, because I know too many people in this town who they've ended up with a real disaster.
Well, I think anything
And
that
they
would
had to pay
be from the
large
meter
bills.
on, from the outside meter on,
Mhm.
would be at
But
your choice
I'm
of who you want to do
grandfathered
it.
in, that's what you're missing right now, that's why I don't wanna get into, it's a little bit different situation, I know what you're saying, and I understand. Sit with me, sit with Mark, we can explain what it is. This needs to be resolved, I'm appealing to this committee to make a decision and get the city, because now there's a leak out front, and MoDOT has to get into this. Okay, because it's going under Highway 19.
Yeah, I
So they're
saw
gonna
that.
excavate my yard again, so let's get that lateral fixed. Let's get it fixed, because why come in and dig a third time then? You know, when the contractor, Mark's getting bids, he's trying to avoid shutting down 19 and excavating underneath, which makes sense. So let's get it done. Let's get my lateral fixed and get the new meter in at the same time. Because they gotta dig up my yard anyway. The leak is right at the curb, just outside the curb.
So if they fix the line underneath the street, which has to be fixed, cause that's a leak, it's like the fire hydrants. Then from that point, that's a new line that goes to her house. The meter, is there a problem with where they would position the meter in your yard?
It's already there.
There-
We've already
there's-
got,
yeah,
we've already
there's-
got the set and everything, so.
So then it's a matter of, Lisa would then have to get the plumber, or a plumber of her choice, to go from the meter inside and remove you're gonna remove the old meter, right?
We have them already, they've already spoken with me. Sorry, I.
But what she's saying is, and I would not, evidently, she was grandfathered somehow.
Grandfather,
The supply went straight to the house, and the
Yep.
city at that time was responsible to get it to the house.
Yeah,
That's what we're saying.
exactly, that's what it is.
And that's no longer the case.
Just like Dwayne's, things change, there's laws change, but you're kind of under a little bit different situation when you're in old place, so things are different. But an agreement was made verbally with the mayor, and he said he had to check with the attorney, and we have not heard anything. The Quality Plumbing, who's owned by Mike Wilson, said he has talked with Sally. So something's been happening, but we don't know what. So I'm appealing to you as our utility committee. Help me out. Let's get this done.
well, it seems to me that, the first part of it is on the city, and that's to get the leak fixed that's under the road. And that then brings you into a lateral line that comes into your home. That line probably will be a new line up to your house meter, is that right, Mr. Nash? Because that line will go to her house meter, or is that's the main line, and then there's a tee off of the main line going to her new meter?
Well, the line's already there, it's an old line.
Yeah.
There's an old line there.
Okay, but
We-
well,
we-
when you do the one under the street,
Mhm.
that line, well,
It will go to the setting at her residence,
and,
because it's the service line that's going to her house.
okay, so it'll go up to,
The new
The
setter
new-
that we
the
put
new
in
meter.
in her yard, yes.
okay, so I'm not sure I'm getting what I need to,
John, I know where you're
Understand.
getting stuck right now.
so when I get the,
It's like
when
I
I
like to
get
keep
to the
everybody
new
here all
meter,
night.
then I
It's
know.
not the new
I've had a
meter.
house with a lot of lead in, so I've got a problem up here, okay?
That's okay, I got a bottle of aluminum, we're in good company.
And
That's
I
okay.
used to drink water at the school all the
Yeah.
time.
I'm-
From the meter on, then that's your responsibility.
No, because the meter was put in out in the front yard as kind of a stop gap because of a situation. Let me just put it that way that arose, I'm not gonna go into all that right now. I will sit with you, I'll explain to any of you wanna know the details a different time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, being that this is like an advisory committee to the Board of Aldermen, and this is getting a very personal issue and things like that, I'll stick around and, kind of take some notes and things like that
Oh,
if you
okay,
want.
that's fine.
And see what I can help out
And
with,
if John,
but we're
if you
getting
wanna stay, I'll stay.
pretty,
Sure.
But I don't
yeah,
wanna
we're getting
keep
pretty
people here.
specific, and
Yeah.
like, I don't think this is gonna be a motion or anything that the
Right.
utility committee can really help on to the board. You know, cause this is a committee that advises the board.
Yes.
Not so much, you know, but they can, you know, on your behalf, you know, email us and things
Yeah.
like that, so, I'm gonna go ahead and, are there any other questions from the back? From
I
any-
just wanted
from
to
anyone?
ask one question, is,
Okay.
has a background aluminum been established by the city? Do you know that or not?
I don't
Because,
know that.
my kids and grandkids live in the city and they use that water. So I'd be curious, my dad was a water superintendent for 25 years, so I know a lot about this stuff. And that needs to be pursued.
It's, yeah.
To find the
yeah,
background,
yes.
if
We need
it,
to
where's
figure out
it
where
coming
it's
from?
Yeah,
coming
our
That's-
aquifer shows about a 0.1 micrograms per
I
liter,
figured there
which
was
is
some
which is about a
residual there,
1 part per million, I believe.
Okay.
The secondary contaminant, established by the Missouri DNR is 2 parts per billion, or 2 parts per million, sorry, that's totally different.
But the reading at the plant
Yeah, and
is
it's,
okay, right?
yes, yeah, coming out of the ground,
Yeah,
it
coming out of
has,
the
it
ground,
has
it
been
seems to
okay,
be.
and those are secondary, so even if it goes beyond that, it's not a stopgap of like, this is dangerous, it has to deal with taste and clarity of the water.
Yeah, the only other
So-
thing that I've heard about aluminum over the years with the other combination is, it can affect the brain fatty strains and it can cause Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
True problem.
This is,
Well, there's-
very,
there's,
Dent County Health
terrible.
Center, or, yeah, Dent County Health
This
Center,
is
maybe
the
try to say
report
Health
I
of
get
Dent
from
County
my
put a,
house.
so the Dent County Health Center also put out an article which is, talking about what MCLs are and what each one of them are and what you can look at, and that's determined by the state. And things
Was
like
that the
we're
article
an
in the
iron
paper?
mine
No,
area.
That
no,
was a
so
different
that's,
paper.
that's
Heavy
on
iron mine.
his
There's iron
website,
mines
so
all
that
over.
Dent County web, yeah,
Okay.
it
Not
talks about
aluminum.
all the issues that came up with the school as well as,
Oh, okay.
so, as well as a couple of things about Salem's drinking water and looking at the tests that we've run, because you can look at all this through the Missouri Drinking Water Watch system.
But you have an annual report, you know. it's
Yes,
all out there.
yeah, we have an annual report and we
You
have,
can keep that one.
all the
I'll
routine
print another one later.
inspections that are done.
I
Uh,
have
yeah.
a question before we.
Sure, yeah.
I didn't redact from
I'm
these.
still going back to
Somebody
the
else might be
school.
willing to give
Okay.
theirs up.
So,
But
we
no, you
have,
can
as
keep
a
that
city,
one.
have
Mine,
no
that's my
responsibility
information right
to
on
the
here.
school
But the other people
for
might
their
not have the
problems.
originals.
I mean, to me,
I guess I'm not sure what you're asking.
Like, what kind of responsibility are you talking? 'Cause I might be
you
able
know,
to.
I mean, the problems that they're dealing with, do we as a city, as a utility committee, water, have any responsibilities there for, I mean, they don't share anything with us. And I'm just, I don't know
Since
where, I don't know where we go, I mean,
I can answer
yeah,
this.
I mean, I'm confused.
Yeah, so I can answer this, since we provide water to the school,
It's in the city limits,
it's in the city limits and we are providing through the public water system that we own.
correct?
We need to make sure that our water that we are providing to them isn't the source of the lead that they're detecting.
Correct.
So they don't believe that is the case. But we are still taking recommended steps from the Dent County Health Center,
Just
they
to
have
make
advised
sure
us,
and
just to be
really roll
sure.
out.
Yeah, we are going to take some extra samples, because we test every 20 times a year for lead and copper.
I
Or
would
20
think-
times every 3 years for lead and copper. We take 20 samples every 3 years for lead and copper, and none of them have come back dirty.
I'm
that
just-
I've ever
I
known.
just have a concern that they don't share, so
Yeah.
therefore, we're kinda left out here in the dark.
Yeah, as far as we're gonna test going to there and to see if that's on, you know, if it's anything that we're providing. If we are not, then it's on there and their system, just like it would be your house. If we
Right,
tested
okay,
clean
sure, yeah.
and your house came back as
No, that
dirty on
makes
lead,
sense, yeah.
then it's on you.
Is the school at the end of a line?
I have no
Is
idea.
it at
They're
a
pretty
No.
close to the
low
pump.
usage or high usage?
No, they're not at the end of the line.
Yeah, they're right next to one of the pumps.
And I would think a lot of the older buildings are like my home, they were all soldered to 60/40. And, I mean, I've never had any of the kids, my children, ever drink any city water, I go through a Berkey filter for everything
Yes.
that I drink. And that's just because the way the house was designed years and years ago.
I'm sure it's great.
What?
Hard to make a hair burn.
Yeah, there's,
I'm a heathen, I guess. Yes, ma'am.
You said they
So I
don't
think that school was
believe,
built.
that, you know, it's the water coming to, who are they?
That is the Dent County Health Center,
Okay.
sent out a report, and the officials that, sent out this information at
So-
the school.
So they're all thinking it's within the schools?
Yeah,
Well,
they believe
And
so.
that would be, I would think, an easy test. You test the source right before you get to the school.
Mm-hmm.
And if it comes back like that, with there, no problem, then you're gonna look at the school just like I would look at my house and say, hey, I've got everything, well, soldered.
Well, my
'Cause
daughter,
everything is copper and everything's soldered 60/40.
my daughter used to teach at William Lynch, and I remember her classroom was falling apart, the walls. So I would not be surprised if William Lynch is dirty.
Well,
I'll read this excerpt really quick to kind of, you know, cause I've referenced it a couple of times, but Dent County Health Center has asked the city of Salem to conduct immediate testing of their water system at points near the schools to rule out lead contamination from the public water system. We are taking care of that. At this point, the evidence suggests that the contamination at the schools is most likely coming from internal plumbing.
that makes sense.
However, given the risk to public health, it is necessary to conduct additional testing to rule out possible public contamination.
Are they
That is
saying
what we're-
all the schools?
As far as I know, I thought it was.
High
We
school.
agreed earlier today to test the sources to all the schools,
All
Yeah.
the schools?
just to make
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
As far as I know, I think it was only the high school, the Salem R8.
But I would think the
That
city
came
would be
back.
interested in what you're just questioning, and that is that all the schools are safe.
Yeah, so.
Those
Yeah.
old water
Like I
fountains
said,
that they
William
have,
Lynch
they
needs to
have
be
be a
tested.
source as well, the old
Yeah.
water fountains.
Actually, William Lynch needs to be torn down.
Okay. Are there any additional questions, comments, concerns? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I have a motion from Catherine, second from Mr. Hambecker.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Were you
I'm
watching,
interested.
were you on there this entire time?
We'll talk some more about kind of a chronology of what happened. I know it was fast, but.